Hi guys, thank you for joining me today. Today I am working on the design from the second shelving of my worm farm. I just finished doing a rough sketch. It might look a bit awkward to you, but as I mentioned, it is a rough sketch, so I haven't been using anything more than just a ruler and a pencil to get the drawing done. So the angles might be a bit off, but it's just to give me a rough idea of what it looks like so that as I'm building it, I can have a mental aid. So I'm just gonna zoom in and show you the dimensions and the setup of this bin. So to start off with, the length is 89.5 inches and the height is 84 inches and the width is 29 inches. Now for a breakdown of each unit, so this dotted section represents the bin that is going to be in here. I am using 2x4 lumber, and you may know that 2x4, when they say 2, it is actually 1.5 inches, and when they say 4, it is 3.5 inches thick. So in here, the distance across here is 22 inches, so that would be 20 inches for the width of the worm bin, 1/2 inch allowance in between, and then 1.5 inches the thickness of the lumber that I'm using. It is going to be 8 inches high from here to here, so that is 6 inches for the height of the bin and 1/2 inch allowance, and then 1.5 inches for the thickness of this lumber here. So this unit, it is 22, I don't know if I mentioned that before, but 22 inches across, 1/2 inch space, 20 inches for the worm bin, and then 1.5 inches for the lumber. Now I have here 4 units across, 10 units down, so I'm going to be having 40 of these worm bins in here. So that is the design that I am working with. I am contemplating removing the last bottom 4 right across and leaving that section open to hold my European night crawlers and my Canadian night crawler bins, because those are 76-liter totes. But I'm not sure if I really want to do that. I would like to just keep this unit on a whole for just the red wigglers. I might have to build a different unit, a smaller unit for the European and the Canadian night crawlers. So I'm going to take you outside and show you the bins that I will be using for this system. I don't have those bins yet. I just have a few on the first worm farm shelving unit. So here, this bin that I'm going to be using, it is 20 inches wide, almost 6 inches high, and 27.5 inches in depth or in length. So let's go outside and take a look at what I'll be using. Okay, and I failed to mention that on the sides of the unit and on the back of the unit, I am going to be using 1/4 inch hardware cloth. And then the front, I am not certain what I'm going to be doing with that yet. And the reason I am using the hardware cloth on it is because this is going to be in my garage. And During the winter, mice tend to go in there because it is an old garage, so it doesn't have one of those doors that is secure to the extent where the mice can't get in, so they go in there for the warmth. And they tend to harass my worm bin for the food, and in the process of doing so they end up killing a lot of my worms, because they're not going to scrape the worms off to get to the food, they're just going to go in and start eating, so they end up killing a lot of my worms that way. So I'm going to be using hardware cloth to ensure that they cannot get in. Mice have the tendency of being able to shrink themselves, so if it is 3/8 of an inch, the size of the holes in the hardware cloth, they can get in, but they are not able to shrink themselves down to a 1/4 inch, so that's why I'm using the 1/4 inch hardware cloth. So let's go now and look at the bins that I'll be using, and after that I am going to be I'm gonna start to cut the lumber that I'm going to be needing for this shelving unit. I am not going to be putting it together just yet because I need to finish cleaning that garage. I'm also contemplating putting this unit on wheels so that when I'm not working on the worm farm, I can always just push this unit up against the other unit to make more space in the garage, and then when I'm accessing the units, when I'm tending to the worms, then I can just move it over. Okay, so let's go have a look at those worm bins. Okay, so what you're looking at here is the type of worm bins that I'm going to be using. This shelving, however, was not originally designed for this type of worm bin, and so what you find is that I have a lot of wasted space to the side here, but the new design that I have for the next shelving unit will be very efficiently made in terms of space that is used up. I'm just going to take one of the bins out so that you can have a look at it. It is actually a bin that is made for mixing small quantities of concrete, so you can get it at the lumber yard, and they come in roughly 2 different sizes. So I choose the smaller one because one, the size of it is quite nice. I don't want to be building some big shelving units, and 2, because it is easier to handle in terms of both the size and the weight when it is filled with material. So let's get it down and let you have a look at it. Okay, so here it is. This is going to be the new worm bin. But as I took this down, I noticed that my material here seemed to be a bit dry on the surface. A little bit too dry for, well, a lot too dry for the worms, so I'm just gonna moisten it down. The one thing that I don't like about these bins, and it might be more of the location rather than the bin, is that it dries out very easily But then Saskatchewan is like that. Everything dries out easily. It's not very humid here at all. And this is one advantage that my previous worm bin, that one that was 4 by 8 by 2, had over using these small containers, because I'd go in and I water once for the week and that would be it. And it doesn't really take much to get it all watered, and it doesn't dry out easily. Sometimes I can go even up to 3 weeks depending on how much material is in there without wetting the bin. But this, I have to moisten it like every 3 days. I have to moisten it. And you might think that all that water that I just put in there would be a lot, but it's actually not enough. This bin has mostly hatchlings in there, and the material, the bedding and the food is just finished compost, so you really won't be able to see the worms. In case they're not big enough yet. I'm a little behind with this because this week has been really crazy. I had to take my older daughter to the hospital on Saturday for asthma, and then I had to take my son yesterday, which was Monday. So 3 days apart. I had to be running with them. I'm hoping that the second daughter doesn't have an attack, because once one of them has a cold, usually, because that's what triggers our asthma the most, having a cold. So I'm just hoping that I won't have to take her, that she won't get sick. It's been crazy, so a lot of the things that I had on my schedule have to be rearranged, but I guess that's just another part of life. It could be a lot worse, so I am thankful to Jehovah for that. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to show you the materials that I'm going to be working on for this worm farm unit. So I have most of the 2x4s here already that I need to cut down to the appropriate length. So I have practically all the long pieces that I need. I need maybe 6 more pieces. I have the short pieces will be taken from old pallets that I have ripped apart, so I'm going to be using the 2x4s from those to do the short upright pieces. So that's it for now, guys. I thank you for watching, and if you enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, welcome, and I hope you have yourself a wonderful day.